Did the internet overreact to the Thaddeus Moss Kayvon Thibodeaux block? All right, let's talk about it, man. All right, so if you haven't heard, the biggest and the latest preseason controversy that we have been in is this whole Kayvon Thibodeaux block, right? Because some people are very upset, and some people feel like, that Thaddeus Moss, the tight end for the Bengals, did a dirty block, right? And basically what happened, it was a play action play. Kayvon comes to kind of set the edge, and Thaddeus Moss comes to kind of get him. And now Thaddeus Moss is worth being noted. He's like a horribly undersized tight end. He's like 6 foot, and he's not a big guy, right? So when you're not a big guy to begin with, Kayvon Thibodeaux, really big guy, you're going to go low in football, and that's what he did. He went low. Unfortunately, Kayvon kind of planted and didn't slide when the block happened, and he injured his MCL, which sucks. But this has begun a debate, right? Because the debate wasn't necessarily about the play as much as it was about the reaction to the play, right? I think a lot of people had a lot of reaction, a lot of thoughts. Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk had some thoughts on this on their show. It's a great show. Check it out.
Happened. The reaction from the media was maybe my favorite thing. Warren Sharp posted. Warren Sharp posted.
I wanted to arrest this guy.
This is dirty as fuck.
All right, so there's something I want to point out here, right, to the reaction of this, and this happens all the time. Whenever something goes down on the football field, that people can all look at and go, that don't seem 100% okay. Right? And look, this block, it looks like it might be dirty. I understand why people have that perception of it because, not everybody's watching the line of scrimmage and knows how these plays work in and out. Even though some of these guys are paid to talk about football, they should really know better. But, it's one of those things where, okay, I can get it. But what ends up happening, and it usually is like the same group of people that do this, is somebody voices their displeasure, right? And then everybody rushes to the internet to let the world know that they're not a bad person. And they just kind of jump on this opinion because it is being made that like, oh, this is the proper opinion about it. If you don't believe this, you're a terrible person who wants people to get injured, right? And then what happens when you do that is these tweets kind of like compete with each other, right? So Warren Sharp says that's dirty. Somebody else says, you know what? He should get fined. Somebody sees that Warren Sharp said that and somebody else came on top. Rich Eisen comes out of nowhere like he should be fined, suspended, and kicked out the league. And then somebody goes, he should be in jail over a block on a football field. Because we can't help but compete with each other to one up each other on our outrage, right? Some people call it outrage Olympics, where people are just competing with each other to show each other that they're the best person because they're the most outraged, regardless of whether, it usually gets to the point to where the outrage just doesn't fit the actual crime that happened here. This is a perfect example of it. Look how these tweets just build on top of each other.
Sharp. He was the first one to put it onto the internet, and everybody was reacting to the Warren Sharp tweet. There was Emmanuel Acho who was obviously tweeting, this is ridiculous, dangerous, and cowardly. Straight cowardly. Prayers up for Kayvon Thibodeaux, says Emmanuel Acho.
See, look, he had to up the ante. Let's see what's next.
Obviously one of the faces of Fox Sports 1, former NFL player who I have more tackles than. We have to remember that. He's obviously an incredibly talented brain, and he has played in the NFL, and he has been a great college football player, but he jumped on the bandwagon of this being cowardly and dangerous. It didn't stop there. It continued. Rich Eisen, who...
Boom. What is this, Rich? What is this? Penalty. Hefty fine to a bottom of the roster player. We're too comfortable suggesting fines to players who don't make that much money, by the way. I'm fully on it. Why are we so thirsty to take people's money? I don't know. But like, this is just like, you want him heftily fined. You want him out the league is what you're saying for this play. And it's not even an illegal play. And again, these guys have covered football for like 10 years. The excuse that you don't know that this isn't illegal is dumb. That's dumb. Like, either you're admitting yourself to be fully incompetent, or you got caught in the outrage machine. Just admit it, man. Like, you saw everybody getting mad. You wanted to make sure everybody knew you were mad, but you wanted to make sure that they knew that you were the maddest at this thing. It happened with Myles Garrett, right? When Myles Garrett smacked Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet, nobody thought that was a cool thing to do. Nobody thought that was a good idea. But everybody had to get off the most extreme version of that take, right? It went from Myles Garrett should be fined for that. That's unacceptable. He should be fined, to Myles Garrett should be suspended for that. Okay, look at that. That's reasonable. He hit a man in the head with a football helmet on the football field. That's cool. Then it went from Myles Garrett should be suspended to Myles Garrett should never be able to play football again after doing that. He should be kicked out of football forever. He should be suspended at least a year. He should be gone from the game. To Myles Garrett should be in jail for hitting Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet. You see how we get here? Like, and look, it's going to continue, bro. It's going to continue. Like, this happens a lot, and this is why I say try not to take social media too serious, because it just ends up being people competing to be the most outraged. Because I don't know if it's as cynical as people doing it for clicks, because honestly, being this mad doesn't really help you in a clickbait world like everybody on the internet thinks it does for content creators. But what it does do is kind of make you feel good about your moral compass or whatever it is, because you got to let people know how good of a person you are. I'm fine with people thinking I'm a terrible person. So I guess I don't do this that much, but this is what happens on Twitter all the time. No matter what the issue, it happens all the time.
We have a lot of respect for it. Said penalty, hefty fine, suspension, nothing less is acceptable. This man was the first hired by the NFL Network, been around the game a long, long time. And obviously, a lot of people aren't happy about one of the biggest stars of this year's draft, a man who is on the rise, getting injured in a preseason game in the fashion that he got injured in. But for every response, there seemed to be former players that were also coming out and saying, excuse me, definitely not dirty. It's an unfortunate part of the game, and I hope.
All right, now this comes to the other side of it, right? Because whenever you have the overreaction to the people who, they want to show you how down they are, you have a reaction from the other side reacted to that. And these things scale equally on both sides, right? Whenever stuff like this happens. So then you have people who come out and their reaction is, oh, no, that's just a front side. Like, that's not a dirty play, but we can talk about whether that play should be legal. There's some conversation to be had there, but it's not necessarily that player's fault for doing that. That's what everybody else does. Then somebody else is going to come on top of it. It's a legal play. Why are people mad? Okay, a little bit more aggressive. You're technically right, but a little bit more aggressive. Then somebody comes in from the top rope, with the big splash. It's not just legal. Why are we crying about it? We shouldn't be. It just builds on top of each other, right? Whatever group of people you're trying to impress on Twitter, what ends up happening is that one side of that wants to be mad at this, one side of this wants to be mad at the people who are mad, and then everybody will one up each other to say the most ridiculous thing possible to make whatever side of that happy. And we just end up with the mess that is social media. That's my social media one-on-one class. But let's see.
Kayvon bounces back ASAP, says Darius Butler, who will talk in the next hour. He was not the only one. Others jumped in. Will Blackman, it's not dirty. You got to use your hands and get your feet out of the way. Praying he isn't seriously injured and bounce back. Everybody says kind of like, hey, this is just part of the game. We hope this doesn't happen and somebody gets injured. We hope he gets healthy. Mark Schlereth said, excuse me, Archer. This is a block that is executed hundreds of times every weekend. Cowardly? Come on. I would argue it's horrible defense.
Boom. It's Kayvon's fault for getting his MCL tour. You see what I mean?
AJ, all-time leading tackler for the Green Bay Packers, a man who has been a linebacking legend forever and has had to do drills. When I run this play, which we're about to do, can I get your thoughts live on if it's dirty, if it's not dirty, and how this probably should have went, AJ Hawk?
Well, what Thibodeaux, he has to have an idea that tight end's coming back across the ball to get him. Like, that's definitely an option. He knows this little split zone look could be coming, so I don't think he's taken by surprise.
Okay, play it.
It's hard because they got that ghost motion behind him, so he thought for a second he had to check that motion that they faked it to. You see it?
The end
around. I think that's what caused him right here. He kind of stopped. If he would have kept going, he'd be fine. I think that's why 81 as well kind of was like in between hitting him in like as he's going down. Thibodeaux's just got to keep going, but I think that ghost motion took his attention for a split second.
So split second, he looks at the end around, which is supposed to do, just window.
Right foot in the ground too. That's what caused it, I think. And someone else has a responsibility to take that ghost motion, but he can definitely kind of flash for you.
By the way, that's a window dressing there.
But that's a great explanation by AJ Hawk, by the way. But that's the whole Thad Moss situation, man. I have not seen the reactions to this were incredibly crazy over the weekend, and I felt like it was a pretty routine play. Like, should we talk about whether that block should be in or not? I think there's an argument for it to be in. I think there's an argument for it to be out. Ultimately, I mean, how many things can we take away from the blockers till we don't have any plays that we can run? Like, I think that's a real question. Like, they have to be able to get low. But, it's just people are always going to be mad when a player they like gets injured, and they're going to want somebody to blame. And, it was Thad Moss that they wanted to blame. But, it just, you see how even people who should know better, people who have covered the league for 10 plus years, people who have been in the NFL for a very long time or played football for a very long time, that absolutely 100% know what that play is, will lose their mind because they're trying to impress whatever crowd that they're in front of, and make sure that they know that they firmly in that crew or whatever it is, whatever side of the argument that they're in on that. And that's kind of my thoughts on this. I don't think it's a dirty play. I'm more on the side of people tripping about this. And I'm usually, in just a rule of thumb for me, I'm usually never on the side of the argument on Twitter that's talking about somebody should be in jail over football. I'm usually never on that. I've never been on that side. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Y'all keep it civil. Have a great day. Have a good night.